Hello.
Hello.
Hi, Diksha Didi.
Hi.
Uh, Today we are gonna be starting with the conditions, but before that, we are gonna see in detail the include statement and the using namespace statement.
Okay.
So over here I made some notes. So over here, as you can see, we are including IOStream, and then we are saying using namespace standard. So in programming, we cannot have variables, functions, etc. with the same name. So if I want to have two different variables with the same name, my var, I cannot have that. So to avoid that and to have two variables with the same name, you can create namespaces. So namespaces, in different namespaces you can have variables, like, so for example, you have a namespace A and you have a namespace B. So in namespace A you can have X variable, and in namespace B you can have X variable, right? So this is how you can have the same variable name in two namespaces, right? So here I've created an example
Okay.
where we have a namespace. We are creating a namespace A in which we are creating a X variable, and we have a print X function. Similarly, namespace B in which we have an X variable and print X function. So this will not give us an error because we have two separate namespaces with separate variable, with the same variable names inside them. So because we have two separate namespaces, the variable names, there will not be a conflict, right? And to access the variables and methods from the namespace, you'll have to mention the namespace name and then use the properties and methods. So like in Python, what happens, for example, you do import random from a random library, right? So then it will
Hmm.
only include the random method. But in this, when you're doing include IOStream, it will include all the methods. And when you're saying using namespace standard, so what will happen in IOStream, for example, you have some methods like X, and then you have inside IOStream you have a namespace standard, right? And you're saying using namespace standard, and in which we have cout and all. So without the standard, without mentioning standard, we can use the cout, cn, endl, etc. And we can also use X. So that when we saw that it only includes the elements inside standard, that was a confusion, right? So there was a confusion in that, because in many languages like Python, when giving a similar syntax like import random from random, then it imports only random. But in this, when you're saying include IOStream using namespace standard, then what is happening, all the methods of IOStream and all the namespaces of IOStream are included, and the standard namespace, whatever methods are there in the standard namespace, will also be included globally inside the IOStream. So you won't have to specify standard, and then you don't have to say standard cout. You can directly use cout. And in the IOStream library, if outside the namespace you have another cout method, right, and you are not doing using namespace standard, then when you are using cout, then what will happen, it will check outside the namespace and it will try to find cout. When you're saying using namespace standard, then it will kind of bring the methods outside of the namespace, which will be which you can use, right? And for example, you have cout in the global IOStream library in the global scope, and you have a cout method in the inside your standard namespace. Then when you're doing using namespace standard, then cout will override the method cout that was outside. So for example, I have a name, let me type over here. So I have a cout method. So let's just say this is a cout method, and then I have a namespace, right? So we have a namespace like standard, right? And inside of this, we have your cout. So when doing using namespace standard, then what will happen, the cout will come outside and it will override the cout method that was already there outside. So this was a brief of this concept.
Okay.
So any doubts?
Not clear.
Okay. So, computer needs to know. So basically, why namespaces are used? Because why do you have to give using namespace standard? Because computer needs to know the code for the cout, cin functionalities, and it needs to know which namespace they are defined in. That's why you'll have to tell it that either you could give using namespace standard, or you can give standard before each of the standard namespace methods. It's up to you. So this was a brief.
Okay.
Now we will go on to today's concepts, that the new concepts that we are gonna learn, that are conditions right now. So we are C++ if else. So C++ conditions and if statements. So this is very similar to Python. So you already know that C++ suppose the usual logical conditions from mathematics, like less than, that is a less than b, less than or equals to, less than equals to, greater than, greater than equals to, not equals to. So we have seen all of these comparison operators in our operators chapter. So you can use these conditions to perform different actions for different decisions. So C++ has the following conditional statements. You have the uh, if statement to specify a block of code to be executed if a specified condition is true. You have the else statement to specify a block of code to be executed if the same condition is false. So if the if statement is false, then it will go in the else block. Then next you have else if, that is similar to the elif in Python, that is to specify a new condition to test if the first condition that is specified in the if statement is false. And then you have the switch statement, that uh, that you have in Python also. It's called something else. I don't remember. It is called match case. So it's not switch. It's not called switch case. It's called match case in Python. So you switch to specify many alternative blocks of code to be executed. So switch statement I think will be new. So have you done the match case statement in Python?
I don't think so.
All right, so this will be new, but if else and else if you already have an idea of. So the if statement,
Hmm.
use the if statement to specify the block of C++ code to be executed if a condition is true. So it's given like, so should I just delete all of this, or you?
Yeah, sure.
All right, so first we'll create our main method over here, in which everything will be executed. And now you can have an if statement and you give brackets. You don't have to give brackets in Python, but you have to give brackets in C++, and then you can give your condition like 10 is greater than 9. Then you'll have to give these curly braces, and if 10 is greater than 9, that is true, then it will go in the if statement and execute whatever is here. All right.
Okay.
So note that if is in lowercase letters, uppercase letters if or if will generate an error. So it's case sensitive. The if statement is case sensitive. You cannot give it like this, or you cannot say like this, right? So in the example below, we test two values to find out if 20 is greater than 18. So if the condition is true, print some text. So we can also test variables, right? So we can also perform tests on variables. That is pretty basic. So say int x equals to 10, int y equals to 9. If x is greater than y, then basically we can just do cout uh, x is greater than y. So it will just show us x is greater than y as 10 is greater than 9. So the example is explained. So in the example above, we use two variables x and y to test whether x is greater than y, like using the greater than operator. As x is 20 and y is 18, we know that 20 is greater than 18. We print this on the screen that x is greater than y, right? So now this was the if statement. Now we can move on to the else statement. So if the condition given in the if statement is false, right, then it can go in the else block. If you don't give the else block, else statement, then it will just get out of this if statement and continue with the code that is here. But if we give the else statement, then it will check for the if condition to be true. If it is false, then it will go in the else block, and then it will continue with our code. So the syntax is like this only, like if and then else. So for example, you have int time is equals to 20. We are gonna check if time is less than 18, then we'll print good day, else we'll print good evening, right? So if so we'll just write this example. We'll say time is equals to 20, and we're gonna check if time is less than 18, then we'll show good day, else we'll show good evening, right? So over here time is not less than 18, so it will go in the else block and show good evening. Very simple example. So in the example above, time 20 is greater than 18, so the condition is false. Because of this, we move on to the else condition and print the screen, or print on the screen good evening. If this time was less than 18, the program would print good day. And if it is equals to 18, then also it will say good evening, because we are checking if time is less than 18, so it should be 17 or lower to print good day. But now it is 18, so 18 is not less than 18, so it will show good evening, right? So now we are on the else if statement. So you can use the else if statement to specify a new condition if the first condition is false. So like over here, this is the code. So if condition 1, if it is true, then it will go in the if statement. Else if the condition 2 is true, then it will go in the else if block, or else it will go in the else block. So like we have this same time example. So if time is equals we have time equals to 22. If time is less than 10, then it will say good morning. If it is less than 20, if it is less than 20, so we are saying it is less than 20. So what will happen in else if? We are essentially checking if time is greater than 10 and less than 20, because we have already checked if it is less than 10, and if it is not less than 10, then only will it come on the else if statement. So we are checking if it is less than 20 and greater than or equals to 10, essentially over here. And if it is like, if that is true, then we'll show good day, else we'll show good evening. Okay. So let's just write this example. So we'll check if it is less than 10, then good morning, else if time is less than 20, then it's good day or good afternoon, any, or we'll say good day, else see out good evening. All right, so this is the same code that we give over here. All right, so yeah, they have explained the example also. In the example above, time is 22 is greater than 10, so the first condition is false. The next condition in the else if statement is also false, so we move on to the else condition, since condition 1 and condition 2 is both false, and print to the screen good evening. All right, so just a second. चुप हो जा यार साइश में. All right, so now we are on shorthand if else, right? So that is the ternary operator. I don't think you have already done the ternary operator in Python. So this will be a new thing. So there is also a shorthand if else, which is known as the ternary operator because it consists of three operands. It can be used to replace multiple lines of code with a single line. It is often used to replace single if else statements, right? So this is used to replace your if else statements. So what will happen in the ternary operator? If you, let me give you an example. We'll say time is 22, and we'll say if time is less than 18, then see out good day, else see out good evening. Right, so this was our previous code that we saw in the if else part, right? But you can also make this shorter. This is a simple if else statement. This is doing a simple task, but it is taking a lot of lines of code, lot of our lines of our code. So what we can do, we can use a ternary operator. Here's the syntax for the ternary operator. We'll give variable is equals to condition. If the condition is true, then we'll the value that you give over here will be the variable's value, or if it is false, then the value that you give over here will be the variable's value. So what we could have done, we could have said the result is equals to, we'll say condition, that is your, if time is less than 18, then we'll say good day, else we'll say good evening, right? So we'll say string result because it's a string variable. So now we now okay, so we are getting an issue. Okay, I did the opposite thing. Oh sorry, I forgot to add the question mark. Instead I added the colon symbol. So now this is the correct ternary operator. If it is checking if time is less than 18, so it will set the value of result to good day, else it will set the value of result to good evening, and then we can show the result, right? So now we were achieving the same thing with this code, and now we have so less lines of code. We have 2 lines of code, and here we had 1 2 3 4 5 lines of code, right? So this is a shorthand if else statement, that is the ternary operator.
Okay.
All right. So now, yeah, we have the switch statement that is new for us. So we have the switch statements. Use the switch statement to select one of many code blocks to be executed. So in switch statement, what happens? You give an expression over here like a value like 4 or any string value, and then you have the cases. And whenever a case is matched, then the block of that case is executed. So we will have an example. For example, switch, and we have 4 over here, right? So it's the 4th day. So sorry about that, we'll just give this, and we'll say case 1, and we'll say the value is 1, and then we'll have to always break. We'll always have to say break in every after doing everything in our block of case. We'll have to say break, because once the case is matched, there's no point of checking other cases, and that will take a lot of memory. If, like for example, your case 1 is matched and you have 100 other cases, so if the case 1 is matched, then you don't have, there's no point checking all the 99 rest cases, as you will know that the 99 cases that are left are not a match. So after every case you should break. So case 2, and this over here, in every case we are checking that if the value over here is the same as this that we give after the case keyword, then it will go in the block. So 4 is not equals to 2, so we can just say, we can just pick things up by copying and pasting the code. Case 3, cout the value is 3, and we'll say the value is 2 over here, and then we'll break over here. And finally we have the case, sorry about that, case 4. So we'll say the value is 4. So first it will check if the expression over here that is given, that is 4, is equals to 1, right? So we know that it is not equals to 1, so it will ignore this case and check if it is equals to 2. It's not equals to 2, so it will come on case 3. It will check if it is equals to 3. No, it is not equals to 3, so it will come on case 4. Now this expression over here matches the value after over here, right? So it will go in this block, it will show print the value is 4, and then it will break. So this was the syntax for our case switch, as for the switch statement. And you can also add a default block over here. So we'll first run the code and then I'll tell you what the default block is for. Alright. So we are seeing the value is 4 and the default block is not executed. Why? Because if none of the cases are matched, then the default block will be executed. Okay. So the switch expression is evaluated once. The value of the expression is compared with the values of each case. If there is a match, the associated block of code is executed. The break and default keywords are optional, and we will describe that in a later chapter. But I've already told you that the break is so that it does not check the rest of the cases if it finds a match, and the default statement is to tell if none of these match, then the default statement will get executed. So example, if we say switch 5, then the default statement will get executed, right? Okay. So here there's a simple day switch case. It will get like the user will enter the number for the day, which number day it is, and then we'll check on each case that if it is 1, then it is Monday, it is 2, then it's Tuesday, if it is 3, then it's Wednesday, if it is 4, then it's Thursday, and basically we'll print the day for the day number. So if it's day 4, that means it is Thursday. Right, so we can just copy and paste this code. So this is a simple day number to a day converter, right? So you'll get the day number and you can convert it to the day, like Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday. So it's Thursday. If we say the day is 5, then it will show Friday. Alright. So now they are simply explaining the break keyword. So when C++ reaches a break keyword, it breaks out of the switch block. This will stop the execution of more code and case testing inside the block, right? So as I explained over here, that when giving break, it won't check the rest of the cases. When a match is found, the job is done and it's time for a break. There's no need for more testing. So break can save a lot of execution time because it ignores the execution of all the rest of code in the switch block. And now they are telling the default keyword. So the default keyword specifies some code to run if there is no case match. So if we have day 4, we can switch on the day. We're gonna check if it is the 6th day, so today is Saturday. If it is the 7th day, then we'll say today is Sunday. And in default, if it's none of these days, meaning it's a weekday, so we'll say looking forward to the weekend, right? So a very good application of the default block is being given over here. So next we are on the loops, and we are gonna see the while loop first. right? So while and do while loops. So I think you have done the while loop in Python, but not the do while, right?
Yeah.
All right. So so C++ loops. So loops can execute a block of code as long as a specified condition is reached. So loops are handy because they save time, reduce errors, and they make code more readable, right? So C++ while loop. So basically this is to repeat a block of code, right? A number of times. A for loop will be specifying a specific number of times, how many times you want to repeat a code block. But a while loop will repeat code block till a condition is not false. So the while loop loops through a block of code as long as specified condition is true. So till the condition you give while block is true, the code inside the while loop will run. So for example, you have integer I 0. You're gonna check if till I is less than 5, print the value of I and then increment the value of I, right? So that it does not reach the an infinite loop, right? So if we didn't say I plus plus, for example, what would have happened? It I would always have been all I's value would have always been 0, and it will always check if I is less than 5. It's if I is less than 5, if I is less than 5, so 0 will always be less than 5, and it will get into an infinite loop, and the loop will never end. So I plus plus is incrementing the value of I one by one, so that the loop at some point ends. So I will be 1
Okay.
after one iteration, then it will be 2, then it will be 3, then it will be 4, and once it is 5, it will break out of the while loop. So this was our while loop, pretty simple. We can run this example also.
Okay.
Alright, so we are getting 0 because first is 0 and then it's printing 0. Then we are incrementing it, so we'll get 1. Then next time we are getting 2. Then next time we are getting 3. Then next time we are getting 4. And then once we increment it and we set its value to 5, it will check if I is less than 5. So 5 is not less than 5, so it will come out of the while loop. So this was the while loop. Now we are on the do while loop, right? So what is the do while
Hmm.
loop? It is very similar to our while loop. So you have the while block also in this, but for example, you always want to execute the code block in while once. So what you'll have to do, you'll say this and you'll say this, right? So what you'll do, you'll say you'll execute this code once and then you will check if I is less than 5, then do this, right? But what if there's a simpler way, right? So there's a simpler way. Right now we are have to copying this code, and then if this while loop had 100 statements and we wanted to always run the code inside the while loop once, we'd have to rewrite those 100 statements 2 times. So what do while loop will do? So let's see the syntax here. So what what do while loop will do? We'll say do this while I is less than 5. So regardless of the while statement being true or false, it will once always execute the code that is in do. So first it will execute the code and that is in do. Then it will check the statement in while loop while I is less than 5, and then according to that it will continue executing the code. But once it will always execute the code that is in the do while loop regardless of the condition being true or false.
Okay.
All right. So do you have any questions or doubts?
No, it's clear.
All right.
Thank you.
So do not forget to increase the variable used in the condition, otherwise the loop will never end, like we had in the while loop.
Hmm.
So next we have a for loop. For loop I think we have already done, but it's a bit different from the for loop in Python, right? So C++ for loop. When you know exactly how many times you want to loop through a block of code, use the for loop instead of a while loop. So what is the syntax of the for loop? For statement 1, statement 2, statement 3. So what is this? Statement 1 is executed one time before the execution of the code block. Statement 2 defines the condition for executing the code block, and statement 3 is executed every time after the code block has been executed. So I don't think from this text it will be clear. So let's just see this example. So should I delete this code?
Yeah, sure.
So what we have over here, we're saying for int I equals to 0. So we are creating an integer I whose value is 0. We are checking till I is less than 5, right? So till I is less than 5, then go in the for loop and increment I in every iteration, right? So in every iteration it will check if I is less than 5 and it will increment the value of I. So first it will go in, it will show the value 0, right? So because it is set to 0, so it will go in and it will check if I is less than 5. So 0 is less than 5, so it will print, right? And then it will increment I, then it will go up once again. It is gonna check if 1 is less than 5, so 1 is less than 5. So just print it, then increment I, then it will check if 2 is less than 5, then 2 is less than 5, so it will go in, it will print I, and then it will increment it. So it will give us the same output: 0, 1, 2, 3, 4. So is the for loop clear? Or
Okay. No, it's clear.
all right. So the example is explained. Statement 1 sets a variable before the loop start ends I equals to 0. So it will set the initial value of I. Statement 2 defines the condition for the loop to run. I must be less than 5, right? So till I will be less than 5, it will print I, right? If the condition is true, the loop will start over again. If it is false, the loop will end. So once I is less than 5 is false, the loop will end. And the statement 3 increases the value of I plus plus each time the code block in the loop has been executed. So each time the statements in the code block is executed, every time I will be incremented. We have another example over here. This example will only print even numbers values between 0 and 10. So you have int I equals to 0, you are creating I, you're checking I is less than equals to 10. So till I will be less than or equals to 10, increment I by 2. So you could have also done I plus equals to 2. Over here they're doing I equals to I plus 2. So what will happen? It will go in, it will show 0, then it will increment I by 2, then it will show 2, then it will increment I by 2, then it will show 4, then it will show 6, then it will show 8, then it will show 10, and then when it increments I by 2, that is I's value will be 12. It will check I is less than equals to 10. So it will check if 12 is less than or equals to 10. No, that condition is false, so it will come outside of the for loop. So you get 0, 2,
Okay.
4, 6, and 10. A6, 8, and 10.
Okay.
So next we have nested loops. So you can also have loops inside of loops, right? So it is also possible to place a loop inside another loop. This is called a nested loop. So have you ever used nested loops in Python?
Yeah, if else statements and all.
Uh, the nested loops. So like a loop inside loop. So
Like two loops inside, like.
yeah.
Yeah, I've used it in for else and
Oh, all,
else if.
all right. So the inner loop will be executed one time for each iteration of the outer loop. So for example, the outer loop, what will happen when you have an outer loop, then each execution of the outer loop, the full inner loop will run. So example, you have int I equals to 0, I less than equals to 10. So for each even number, what we can do, we can loop. So they are giving an example of the outer and inner loop. So let's just copy this. So what we have int I equals to 1, I less than equals to 2, plus plus I, or you could have said I plus plus. So see how we are showing outer I, So in this for loop, we are showing outer, and then we are giving the value of I, and then inside of this we are giving another loop, for loop, in which we are creating j. J is less than equals to 3, j plus plus. So what will happen for each outer loop, for each iteration of the outer loop, this full loop will complete. So what will happen? First it will show outer 1, then it will show inner 1, it will show inner 2, it will show inner 3, then it will show outer 2, then it will show inner 1, it will show inner 2, it will show inner 3, then it will show outer, uh, because we are saying less than equals to 2, so it will say outer 1 and outer 2 only. So say outer 1, then it's saying inner 1, inner 2, inner 3, then it's saying outer 2, then it's saying inner 1, inner 2, inner 3. So
Okay.
is this clear, or I can also re-explain this?
Just a second. I just want to read it once again.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. It's clear. Thank you.
Okay. Now you have the for each loop. So this is this for each loop in C++ is very similar to the normal for loop that you have in Python. Right, so there is a for each loop introduced in C++ version 11. So this was introduced in C++ version 11, that was introduced in 2011, which is used exclusively to loop through elements in an array. So in the arrays chapter, we're gonna see about arrays, right? So in which we are gonna also create our battleship game. So what we have, this is the syntax. So for variable in array name. So what will happen when we have, let's see this example. So basically an array is a collection of values. So you can have multiple values in an array of the same data type. So if we create an integer array, right, so we have saying that in this array all there should be integer values, and there can be 5 integer values in this array. So we have 10, 20, 30, 40, 50, right? Then we are looping on this array. We are saying take every element of the array one by one. So for example, it will take 10 first, then it will take 20, then it will take 30, and it will keep the that value in I, right? And once the value is there in I, it will go in and it will show the value of I. So let's just see this example. So first I will get 10, then it will get 20, then it will get 30, then it will get 40, then it will get 50, and every time it will show the value of I, that is 10, 20, 30, 40, 50.
Okay.
So is this clear?
Yeah.
Alright. Let's just see if the break and continue a small chapter. I think this will take time, and we have only 1 minute left of the class. So I would like to end the session over here. If you have any doubts, please feel free to ask.
No, it was very clear. Thank you.
All right. And also you can do the exercises in the website only of the while loop, for loop, switch conditions, and all.
Okay, sure.
All right. And in the next class, that is tomorrow, we are gonna learn the battleship game.
Okay.
We'll learn to create the battleship game.
Okay.
All right.
Done.
Right. So thank you. I'll see you
Bye.
tomorrow in the same timings. Right.
Okay. Bye.
Bye.
Thank you.